Last week, we talked about how Sweeney Todd connects to another movie we're talking about next week, Alfred Hitchcock's Frenzy. This week, we have another such spooky October connection. We are talking about South Korean director Hong-jin's 2016 psychological horror film, The Wailing.
그건 뭔 소리야?
할매가 그대로 냅두면 아줌미가 죽는 데 갖고 구슬한 거예요. 아줌미 안 한다 했는데. 그래서 다 죽여버렸어.
Which has many of the same elements as Billy Friedkin's The Exorcist, which we're talking about on Halloween. Another film that's reminiscent of The Wailing that we've discussed is Park Chan-wook's The Handmaiden that came out the same year. They both deal with the horror inflicted on the Korean people during Japanese imperial rule and the scars left behind. However, maybe more than anything else, the visceral, gory, and absolutely insane experience of watching The Wailing just by sheer brutality might be like nothing else but the film Possession. However, none of these comparisons really do it justice. The Wailing manages to fit all the spiritual and supernatural elements you can really think of, from zombies to shamans to exorcisms to witchcraft and ghosts, into a story about the lingering violence and brutality of Japanese imperial rule. Kwak Do-won plays a policeman who lives in the small rural village of Gakshun. Used to dealing with the occasional petty crime and malfeasance, the rural village explodes with violence as an outbreak of something, an illness, mushroom poisoning, leads villagers to go insane and start brutally murdering their families. Starts to wonder if the outbreak has to do with the sudden appearance of a Japanese stranger in the woods.
이것이 왜 누구 집에 있냐? 어? 나세, 고래가. 너 뭐요? 너 못 알아, 새끼야? 안 왔다, 다래. 네가 이 동네에서 뭔 짓거리 하는지 다 알고 있어.
The stakes are raised to a new high when Hyo-jin, his daughter, starts showing signs of the illness. It begins with a rash, which turns into an intense derangement, eventually leading the infected to murder everyone in their home. The family turns to different solutions, from a slick-talking shaman who wants $10,000 to do a death hex, to Catholicism and even violence of their own, to get this malevolent stranger to move on.
왜 곡성이요? 내 나와봐리. 괜히 씨알 데 없는 짓거리 하다가 개 죽음 당하지 말고 너 나야.
됐대 입가 나이도.
But is it the stranger? Is that a coincidence? Could it just be the poisonous mushrooms? Is it the ghost? The devil himself? Could the ghost actually be the strange young woman who keeps appearing in the village? The Wailing leaves you trying to figure it out until the last moment.
どうして心に疑いを持つのか。
Anyway, before I introduce the panel, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Hit that bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live stream, send us a super chat, which helps me keep the show running, which I am obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/movie night extra. All of our after parties are on there forever. Okay, let me introduce the panel. Conan is currently on tour for the next 3 weeks on the West Coast. Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends is doing the adult prom tour with Lung. If you're in any of these cities, you can get tickets. To see the dates and venues, go to neutronfriends.com. KT Baldassaro is an actress, director, and writer who wrote and co-directed and also starred in Girl in the Basement, along with appearing in quite a few horror movies. She's also voice acting in the scripted podcast series, The Starwell Foundation, an audio drama set in the city of superheroes, wherever podcasts are listened to. J. Andrew World, illustrator, book cover artist, artist for Give Them an Argument, co-host for Movie Night Extravaganza, and Bad Takes. Jhada Addams is a healer, writer, intimacy coach, and an end-of-life doula. Their blog is available at ninjacooter.wordpress.com. I, of course, am a smooth-talking, fast-driving Korean shaman and amateur photojournalist, Forrest Miller. That Death Hex song, honestly a banger.
Not gonna lie, I was gonna bring my drums down here and start playing it for you.
Well, the Death Hex song, when it really gets into that like industrial, almost like it's almost like I could see like a dubstep remix going into that. You know what I mean? Like straight
I
up
totally
like rhyme,
Googled
like
to find
bass
one.
going on. It's like
Yeah.
and he's like, you know what I mean? Like I could see like I could see going to a rave, not knowing that it's the Death Hex song and being like, yo, this slaps, and you get home and everybody's dead. Like fuck.
I mean, that's kind of how it happens in The Gate, right? They find that record. You got to be careful with death music.
Or like The Ring, you know,
Mhm.
but it's like the music version of it. It's like you find a CD with like a Death Hex on it and you listen to it, and then 7 days later you just die.
I did check YouTube. I thought that was a banger of a song, and surely someone has remixed it into a dubstep, but not yet. But maybe someone
apparently not.
listening right now can catch that.
And in the meantime, check out what is that band? Incubus, who actually does a little djembe with some of their industrial music, at least some of their early stuff.
What does this have to do with the Wailing and the death
nothing? But if you like that sound, check that out because I think they kind of capture.
You could also stand like below like an air conditioner that's going really fast, like an industrial plant, and you might get some similar sounds out of it.
Hey, how do you think industrial music got started, dude?
Yeah,
that's why it's industrial.
Yeah.
But before we get into the movie, I did want to ask Jhada, you have a really interesting perspective for this film. You're a end-of-life doula, and I'm not entirely sure. I kind of know what that means, but could you just kind of give me a little bit more on what that means?
Sure. So as an end-of-life doula, I would work with the person who is preparing to die or advise someone who wants to speak about how they would like to pass. And I advocate for them. I speak with their family. I try to help maintain calm and composure in the house during a really rough time. While there's a lot of pre-grieving going on, you probably got some pre-grieving going on with the person who's getting ready to transition as well. And we usually advise on the kind of paperwork that needs to be done. There's a whole lot more than people realize. When somebody passes, you have to deal with a lot of government institutions, have to have a lot of paperwork. So we advise on that. We also advise the family about possibly creating video memorials or any sort of testimonial, like a memory book that the family can go through after the person has passed to give them, some sense of closeness with the person who has passed, as well as asking the person who is dying, how would you like it? What would you like your last moments on earth to be like? Do you want there to be music? Do you want to be in a room full of flowers? Do you want there to be a violin concerto? And we do our best to try to make that happen. There's also, I believe, in Florida, there's a group of people that are doing what they call a threshold chorus, and they'll go to the hospital at the person's bedside and sing them as they cross over. And I just thought that was really beautiful.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, being there, the concept of this like crossover moment, which we kind of deals with exorcisms, which is kind of what we feel is a lot in this movie. This kind of like thinning of our reality between us and something in another life. And actually experiencing, God, I watch a lot of movies where that's what's going on, but I don't think I've ever really fully experienced it. So it's really interesting perspective for this run through the movie.
Oh yeah. Thanks for asking.
I was watching a thing on Korean shamanism, and actually like singing and dancing is like a majority of like what Korean shamans actually do, right? Like because they are the conduit also between the spiritual and the like terrestrial realms, which is in direct conflict with Korea's like modern history, both of like Buddhism but also of Christianity, which is what this movie kind of this movie is constantly in conflict between the priestly, the like connotation of like the devil and like the demonic and like the light, as well as this more like the shamanistic like spirit possession kind of like religion, right? Which are actually like 200 different religions or something that have been like folk religions that are just kind of meshed together into one. But a lot of what shamans actually do is the singing and dancing, and part of that is also like they have a similar end of life tradition where they sing people into the afterlife.
Yeah. There are a lot of different shamanic traditions that go into different ecstatic states through dancing or pain or drumming, and it really depends on what the shaman or medium or what have you connects with best. Different tools work for different workers.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting how this film both kind of shows you these religions, and it's never a reliable narrator. Sometimes it's like, this must be the correct path, and then it's like, nope, that shit, they're just trying to take your money. But it's because I mean, when we're talking about death, the things that we're willing to give, money seems like nothing. You can really prey on someone in more than just financially, on their soul and everything.
Yeah, when I was watching that video, they were talking about how like the two kinds of shaman are. There's like the hereditary shaman that have like inherited it through a family dynasty, like you know what I mean. It's like a long tradition. But there's also like the spirit possessed shaman, which literally, like the belief is that a spirit has possessed them into this path of being like a spiritualist.
Yeah, there's a ritual to do that too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a transpossessive spiritual medium. And so I have been talking with dead people since I was 5, and I've had spirits come in and clean people through me. I have actually done exorcisms. I've cleaned houses before. So it's you wear a lot of hats in this particular gig.
So as someone who fences, and anytime there's fencing in a movie, I'm like, wow, this is a horrible representation. This is not at all what it is like.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess an exorcism would vary from what type of exorcism you're performing. How do you feel? Is there any movie where you're like, they kind of got it?
Oh man, there are definitely movies where they didn't get it.
Yeah.
But I would say, man, if you've ever seen I believe it's a Thai horror movie called The Medium, that is the closest that I've seen to kind of a representation of that sort of village shaman and what happens if you break the tradition within the family line of what the spirit wants. In Thailand, spirits are vicious. And the stronger the spirit is usually the more horrible the death. The strongest ghost in the Thai tradition is the Pitai Tonglam, which is a mother who had been pregnant, and both her and the baby were slaughtered. And usually it's like I think drowning is the worst. And so you have Thai ajarns that go and collect the human remains and pray to the spirits and imbue various talismans with that, so the ghosts can work with people who need them.
That's fascinating.
There's
What do
a
you guys
whole
think
lot.
about-
It's a big deep dive.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about kind of trauma as represented by these folk religions? Because, I mean, it's no like I think everybody knows that the history of Korea is traumatic to say the least, right? Like through
Especially if you look at
like
Japan
even into the
involvement.
like 20th century, both with the Korean War and what we did on the Korean Peninsula, but also Japanese imperialism, which is what like a lot of the filmmaking that they're really doing like lately, right? Like at least a lot of the ones that we've watched are about Japanese imperialism, and as represented by that like demonic spirit. I think it's interesting that like something that's as traumatic, I guess, can be represented by these kind of folk religion imagery.
Oh yeah.
I definitely latched on to the concept of how this was like they kept experiencing like a nightmare. Well, he kept thinking he was having a nightmare, our main character, our police officer, but it wound up that they were actually true events. And how nightmares are kind of our way of taking what we've experienced during the day and coming to terms with, coping with. And I did a little dive into the history of nightmares, because I thought to myself, like, what was the first recorded nightmare? And apparently it was in Egypt in 2100 BC. A guy wrote a letter to his uncle. He had inherited his slave from him and had been abusing his slave very badly. And at night he kept dreaming that the slave was sitting in front of him, just staring at him. And he wrote a letter to his uncle asking for help and how to deal with that. And like, that's your conscience telling you to stop being an asshole.
Yeah.
Or the slave really was sitting in front of him.
He's just breaking at night.
He's like, I'm gonna like, I can't really do anything to get out of the situation, but I can make that fucking asshole feel like I'm watching him all the time.
Like
There'll
he
be that
drunks
grain
him.
of sand in his eye that he'd never really get out,
Yeah. So I
Drunks him.
definitely sorry.
So like he thinks he's sleeping, but he's really awake, and he just sits there and stares at him.
Well, it's like like lucid dreaming or something, right? Like where you can kind of tell everything around you, but it's in a dream state. So you could get there's got to be like some herbal like tonic or something that gets somebody into like that kind of catatonic state that you can just slip to them.
Maybe mushrooms.
There
Maybe
are a
Yeah.
variety.
mushrooms.
There are a variety of entheogenic substances out there that'll get you there.
And also, Egypt did have access to lots of stuff that you wouldn't think, like including cocaine. They found mummies with that had cocaine in the system. So
And yet none of them made any movies like Scorsese.
Right?
No.
Not
missed
the same
opportunity.
cocaine. Exactly.
Yeah, I think that it's really interesting in this though that they like instantly disregard like a scientific explanation. Like the scientific explanation is just like the mushrooms. They're like, oh well, they probably ate like some mushrooms that make you trip and then killed their families, like as you do apparently. And like they just kept blaming because every time there was just like the mushrooms on scene and like in their blood and stuff. And like it's kind of interesting that this movie like treats that as the absurd explanation. Like our characters don't necessarily think so, but like that's to us as an audience at least, like that's the most absurd explanation is like the it's just mushrooms, and it's like,
yeah, really, that's what you're going with. Yeah.
But it's almost like the narration wants us to accuse the Japanese man. Like it wants us to be like, no, forget the mushrooms. That's a stupid thing.
You're
Japanese
definitely driven
man.
forcefully towards the Japanese man for a lot of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Which you can see being South Korean or that's probably the audience who we're expecting to watch this. You'd be like, yeah, I kind of feel that way. And then it makes you feel bad for feeling that. But then it's also like, yeah, it was though.
you're like, do you have some kind of ethnic and I guess anti-male bias where it just can't be this young woman that keeps showing up, naked in front of the police station?
I actually felt bad for the Japanese guy because they were like they really beat the fuck out of him. Like it was hard for me to watch.
It was hard for me to watch them kill the dog.
Oh God! I fast forwarded through that scene. I can't do that. Violence to animals is my weakness.
I hear that.
I did create the hashtag Minecraft the dog.
But if you are a film viewer and you hate that, there's a website called doesthedogdie.com, and you can put any film into it. It will tell you if there is an animal in it, and it will tell you if it dies or not.
That's
And if he does die, it tells you where to fast forward.
Nice.
I was watching Rear Window recently,
Mhm.
and I watched it like my mom was home and we watched like Rear Window because it was right before we did our episode on Rope, and I was like, I'll watch Rear Window, and like completely like missed the point that the fucking dog dies in the middle of that movie as they're like it's like, you know, how they figure out that fucking the guy actually is you know, like the killer. It's kind of, it's even that where you don't see the dog die, but you like kind of hear it and then see like the fluffy body was like sad.
And you're like, I
Mhm.
know it's a stuffed animal, but please, can we just fast forward? And go back to what you were saying, like when they were chasing the Japanese man, I mean, we're there with the crowd to try and kill the guy, and we get him, and I'm worried about him in the chase. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't want them to get him.
Yeah.
Well,
It-
I think too also that part seems like he's not possessed by the demon at that moment, because it seemed like the town spirit woman did the exorcist on him.
Mhm.
Which is, you know, brilliantly the way it was edited, like throws lots of doubt into what you're seeing, and then once you
yeah.
get to the end, you kind of have to reassess that whole scene. But you know, because notice he like does not have emotion. His dog gets killed in front of him, and he does not show an emotion.
Mhm.
And then like after he gets exorcised, and you know seems to be in pain,
Mhm.
you know, seems that's the only time you're actually seeing the actual Japanese man.
Mhm.
And then after that, the demon takes back over because, you know, I don't know how. I need to watch that like 15 more times to really kind of work out this theory here. But
Oh,
I think that-
my thing is, I thought he is the demon. He is like an incarnation of the demon. I don't think that there's a different, like, I don't think he's possessed by the demon. That he is the demon come to Earth as like a human iteration. He's the devil, essentially.
I think that.
Mhm.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's like everything is the point of view of the police officer, and he's so unreliable. I mean, it's such a pathetic shit. Why would he be a reliable narrator? But I took to be like, oh, all this is actually happening. So I think that there's stuff that is just not accurate.
Yeah, so I was talking about this before we started, but I watched Memories of Murder last night, the Bong Joon-ho movie, and
Mhm.
'cause I was interested in seeing like another South Korean police procedural, and that's like a movie I've always intended to watch and haven't gotten around to. And so the way that like South Koreans view the police, which is understandable. I mean, all of this is rooted in trauma and like in the, you know, even as like late as the 1980s, right? Like the Korean police were an incredibly brutal force. Like, you know, there was a succession of generals that had taken over, like tried to institute one party rule. And the Korea, so I was looking into like how they treat, you know, how Korean cinema treats police officers, and it's so much more brutal and like I guess like cynical than American cinema, which even if the police like are the most you know, even if they're bumbling, most of them, there always has to be one cop that's bucking the system that is good, or there has to be, you know, one guy that has figured it out more than everyone else, or one guy that's standing up against the system and they have to figure it out in the end. Or I mean, I guess the movie closest to something like Memories of Murder is like The French Connection, but even then there's kind of a redeeming, like they have some kind of idea by the end of it who you know, who did it, even if one of the guys gets away. So it's like their treatment of police is I mean, probably so much more honest than ours is.
Mhm. Yeah, we do have a lot of propaganda.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes.
I think you know,
both this both this movie and that movie is the farthest possible thing from propaganda. I mean, even when you
Nice.
have like local
Yeah.
police officers who like, you know, do want to solve things, they don't have any idea how to do it. They're not, this is like, oh, well, you know, usually like it's like a guy urinating or like public masturbation or something that like, you know, we get people for like nuisance crimes, I guess. And in both these movies, like when actual murders happen, you know, rape, like anything that's like big in one of these small villages that are like really remote and isolated from, you know, city centers, it becomes like this like you know, quest to try to figure out the first thing about trying to figure any of this out, and nobody can. And it's like I think in American cinema you'd have somebody like one of the cops at least like in the end stumble onto it and be like, oh, this is what it was. And in both those movies, nobody ever does. Like there's no like aha moment. It's just kind of feeling around in the dark.
Yeah, and you get that too with a lot of other ones like Man from Nowhere. In fact, the bumbling cop from this one's a bumbling cop and Man from Nowhere. And but I mean that one's just a wild like an ex-spy gets hooked gets like roped into a the mafia and carnage ensues and the cops are just like going, we don't know what's going on.
I also wonder if maybe a non-American audience can handle an ending that doesn't have such a resolute answer. Like if we have detectives involved, there's a crime, there's a killer, there's a resolution. We like that. So maybe that's also why we don't see this kind of cop so much.
It was the intent of the movie because I mean, like if you see I Saw the Devil, which is another Korean film, there's a nice resolution at the end. And I highly recommend if you haven't seen it, check that one out because that would actually go nicely between Sweeney Todd and Frenzy. But we're doing this one instead. Live, people.
No, so yeah, I mean, I would wonder if like the last decade of like true crime stuff maybe gets people more in the mood for like a story that doesn't necessarily have a resolution, like because sometimes it's like unsolved mysteries or something, and like a lot of people are into true crime, like perhaps maybe like it'll culturally change the the way people are okay or not okay with like open-ended endings, because American audiences definitely aren't when it comes to cinema. It's just like, we want something, we want at least some kind of conclusion or like resolution. And if we don't have that, people are like, well, this movie sucked. Like,
yeah.
It's that tension and no release. And then they feel like let down somehow.
Yeah. Well, we talked about Mulholland Drive a few weeks ago, and like the initial critic response to a movie that's that ambiguous and that open-ended, and that you can like that you actually have to like put your own thought into like coming up with what happened and like the chronology of it, and how American critics were just like, well, this movie is clearly badly written. And it's like
dude, when they brought Anna Karenina to the United States, they had to change the ending, make her live, she keeps the baby, and she gets to live with Vronsky. Like, we're not good at unhappy endings,
man.
I just rewatched Reefer Madness the musical, and it reminds me of a line from it where like we're just like Romeo and Juliet. Have you read the ending? No, but I bet they make lots of friends and have babies.
Yeah.
But I mean, this movie does. I mean, this movie does have an ending. It's just, I mean,
it's just not the one
cut
that
ending.
I think is,
There was a deleted ending.
Yeah. I agree with this comment below. It would always scare me more because it was something that like really happened.
Yeah.
The thing in Memories of Murder, like they did solve it, I guess, in 2019, and it was a guy that was already in prison for murder, and they're like, oh well, we can, he has a body count that's been racked up because I guess he murdered his like sister-in-law or something, and then he was like, all right, I murdered all those other people too.
You got me.
In for a penny, in for a pound, why not?
Well, he waited until the statute of limitations was up on the last one, but he's already in prison for 21 years. So it's like, I mean, well, or he's available for parole in 21 years. He's in prison for life. So it's like, how much more could they really do to you, bro? Like,
True. And talk about an FU to the system.
He said he watched Memories of Murder and was like, I didn't see myself in it, but I don't know. It's fucked
They got
up.
me wrong, so I had to do it again.
All right, it was me, and they didn't put me in the movie, and I'm just kind of upset about it. But yeah, like this movie does have a conclusive ending, although the ending is horrific, and I like that. I like that moment of confusion, like the last 10 minutes of confusion, where it's literally like the Spider-Man's pointing at each other, like everybody's just in a circle pointing at each other, like, oh well, because the entire thing is like I was watching there's like one video that was like talking about this as like a treatise on belief, which really is what it is, right? Like every like these are tests throughout the movie. You realize at the end that he fails all of them. Because like the first test is like let him do the death hex and don't interrupt it, which the woman says the shaman was doing a death hex to somebody else, and that's the reason why the first old woman went crazy, and he doesn't listen to her during that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it starts out with the biblical verse from Luke, which is when Jesus comes out of the grave and everybody sees him and they don't believe him, and he asks them, like, look at me, believe me. It's a test of faith. So it makes sense that the whole movie kept coming around that.
Yeah. And he fails every single test of faith because he doesn't have the number one, he doesn't have the coherent narrative like that's happening in front of him, but he doesn't have the faith that anybody is telling him the truth, and neither do we as an audience. Like we like as an audience, we're questioning like who's the real ghost, like could it be this person? Everybody looks super suspicious throughout the entire thing. Also they just turn in a second because it's like the 28 days later fucking rage virus. Like
but one thing though that we does get a little lost is a little bit of the Korean culture that which I will fully admit I've not really studied that much of. I've studied Japanese and Chinese art history, not Korean, but I've watched a lot of Korean movies, so I think I could fill in. I have I did a quick cram sesh before we streamed to kind of catch up on some stuff. And one of the interesting things I found out was that a lot of shamans in Korea, and this is a general statement right here, are women. Like it is majority women that are shamans. So it's very interesting that it's a man cast in this movie. And then of course you find out at the end, he was working with the demon all along. Yep. So like as an American audience, we completely missed that clue right there. Also kind of recontextualizes a bit of the whole, like, he seems to be in it for the money, the untrustworthiness of it. It's just another point against him.
I do think we get, as a foreign audience, we get one thing that they don't get, which is the added eeriness of all of the things that are normal to them but weird to us. I find that whenever I watch an Asian horror film, I'm way more uneased because I don't even know where the appliances are, how things are supposed to work. And
why is he squatting like that in front of the store?
Yes, just things that throw you off. So I think that's an upside, because we do lose what you're saying, but we do gain a little bit extra anxiety.
Yeah. But that that's actually kind of interesting right there. The other thing too, this is the same in most cultures, but crow, the crow represents death, usually like death's about to happen. I think every society except for the Romans believed that. Romans thought it was a sign of victory until they started losing a lot, and then they thought it was a sign of death.
Well, I mean, crows were Odin's, Hugin and Munin, so they were his messengers.
But it's also every time they look into something, right? It's a dead crow. Like there's so many dead crows in this movie. Yeah. Which and I do know about the symbolism of crows and death, but then you see a dead crow in their water or something like that the spirits place there, and it's well, what the fuck does that mean? Does that mean you're gonna live?
And immediately I thought, oh, that's why everybody's getting pox. It's from drinking dead crow water. But no, nobody really points that out.
It would be really funny if that's what it was, and then the virus starts spreading, and it's yeah, don't drink water with dead birds in it, dude.
Well, it was soy sauce, but it's still.
Yeah.
Well, it's from all the windmills, Trump said. Trump was birds just keep hitting the windmills, and windmills kill all those. So the dead birds are getting inflated.
Oh, yeah.
You haven't lived until you had crow in your soy sauce.
I'm eating crow today, I guess. That's where that expression comes from. But, I mean that there is something super eerie about crows in general. And after the dog gets killed, which traumatizing, I hated that. But after the dog gets killed, he's surrounded by crows, and he's just sitting there, and it's such an eerie scene. The crows are landing all over him, and he's just sitting there in silence, staring into space with the crows landing all around him. And it's Jesus Christ! If this guy isn't the demon, you should still not have him in your town.
Yeah. Yeah.
This film did remind me of films like Antichrist, where there's so much symbolism in every shot, in like what's being said. It was
And the
dense.
snapdragons at each location. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I kind of need to watch it more than once to get all of it. And it's 2.5 hours long. So that's like really a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this movie's definitely an investment on your time.
Yeah.
But it's worth it. I mean, it does not feel like 2.5 hours whenever you're watching it.
No, it doesn't. Oh my God.
You know, which is the incredible thing, because it just sucks you right in. Even though I kept pausing it to go do research, because I'm just like, wait, what's the meaning of goats?
What does it mean when somebody hangs a goat outside your house?
One, it's not good.
General rule of thumb, not good.
Yeah,
well, it's their goat, right? Like it was a like a kill for kill. Like, oh, you killed my dog. Well, I'm gonna put a death hex on your goat, bro. Because I think you see the wife with the goat earlier in the movie. At one point, I'm pretty sure, unless I'm like reading into that.
I think you could be right. I don't remember per se, but that sounds that feels right to me.
Yeah,
that's why they're so
agreeing with you. That's why they're so freaked out about it. Like, because I don't think they would be like screaming if it was just some random goat.
Well, I don't know. Still just a random goat. When I was in college, somebody took decapitated pig heads and placed them in front of the cafeteria. Which, me being the morning person that I am.
And then, did you go to college with David Cameron when he stuck his dick in the?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
But me being the morning person that I am, I just walked right past it, and like everybody's talking about it. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? I was like, you didn't see the pig heads out there? I'm like, no.
Performance art?
I'm here to get myself tea so I can go to my 8:00 class.
Basically like the opening sequence of Shaun of the Dead. You're just walking past zombies to get your drink.
Exactly. But yeah, usually whenever there's like a dead animal placed in front of some place, usually that's a bad sign and people freak out.
Yeah. Well, this movie definitely approaches some of that. Like, what would you do if something horrific or paranormal started to happen in your world, and how far would it have to go before you believed it?
Yeah.
I mean, we're in like 21st century America, so I think if something happened that was horrific and supernatural, there would be the most polarized possible reaction to it. Like,
oh my God, the South.
A lot of people don't like admitting that there's a spiritual issue, and in my experience, when I've talked to people who think that they have a child that is going through some stuff that might be, you know, a spirit interacting, we had one kid that I was just like, one kid, I looked in his eyes and I was just like, oh yeah, he's gone. You know, I don't know what's there, but it's not a little kid. And I never heard from them again. So I hope they're okay.
Yeah. I think in this though, I like in this movie, there's like so many different belief systems, right? And South Korea, I guess, like as they've modernized, I guess it's gotten a little bit calmer with this, but as they've modernized, they've kind of rejected the whole notion of like folk religion and shamanism to try to like, you know, bring themselves into like the modern world or whatever.
For a while, so yeah, it's coming back a bit, but not,
yeah,
you know, not.
So this movie is, there's so many clashes between folk religion, different kinds of folk religion, right? Like shamanism, but also like the guy that has like the herbal supplements that he's like kind of makes potions for everyone. That's their like version of a pharmacy.
That's how you survive the lightning.
Yeah. And then but then also like Christianity and Buddhism and like accepted, I guess, religion in the sense of like, you know, universally accepted religion, and the ways that those things can intersect, right? Like because the demon could be the spirit possessed, because they believe spirits possess the shaman. So the shaman could easily be just possessed by that demonic force that's like an evil spirit rather than like a good spirit when he did his like initiation ritual, which you're like, spirit enter me, and then the spirit enters you, I guess.
Or he could just be enthralled to it, you know, like,
or it could be the devil and he would be working, like voluntarily working for the devil. Like there's just so many possibilities of intersection between Christianity, folk shamanism, and all of these other, you know, religious belief systems that are all kind of contesting for space.
Yeah. They don't really contest for space though in Korea, because remember going back to our episode on Parasite.
I mean in the movie.
But I'm just saying, just in general here, and this is one of the things that also kind of gets lost a little bit. That in Korea, I mean, it's a little bit of they treat religion a bit like a cafeteria. You know, they take what they want. But Confucianism was like an early influence on them. And then
How'd you say that?
Did I say it right? Confucianism?
Confucianism.
I believe it's Confucianism
Okay.
or Confucianism.
It's
Yeah,
definitely
but-
confusing.
It's confusing, yes. But
Use the
the
Confucianism.
the bottom line is that was kind of like one of the first like outside influences that like really, and you see that a lot in the structure of the community, which does not really play a big part in the movie, because usually like there's a deferral to people who are older and a deferral to people's station as well in life. So like there's a hierarchical system. You see that more in like Parasites. Like that's
Well,
a
all the
great
people that are
example.
older in this keep getting like they're the ones that call the shaman, and then the shaman like fucks them up.
Yeah, there's definitely a question of who do you believe? Which religion do you believe? Do you believe the old rooted religion? Do you believe the new religion? Like, what would make more sense? And to go back to what you were saying, Jada, like, you're there to try and tell these people of the parents of this child, like, there's something that I see here.
Yeah.
But it could so easily be, I'm here to take your money because you're in a state of terror.
And
it
there
must
are
be
a
so
lot.
hard to get believed.
It's there are a lot of people out there, and I get how this could be seen as charlatanism, because it is, you know, I pretty much have lived on the fringe my entire life, and it's a fairly fringe belief. And so it's whenever I usually work with someone, I will try to do as much pro bono as I can. And if it continues being an issue, then I have to charge. But the only thing I will usually charge for is, am I using anything to clean the space? Is there anything I need to bring with me? Are there any tools that are going to be used that I will need to have replaced? You know, but boy, I've seen some ridiculous pricing for house cleaning, for, you know, supposed spirit exorcism. And really you're hurting people, you're damaging people, and it's not okay. It's not cool. If you're entering this to make money, then you're not a good person. You know, you're just not a good person. Anybody who gets into this sort of work, you really have to do, it's taxing on your body. It can be taxing on your mental health, because some of the stuff that you see and the stuff that you encounter, and it's, I don't understand why anybody would lie to someone to take advantage of someone economically after a parent has died or their child has been murdered. That's just horrific to me. It doesn't compute, you know?
Unless they are literally the devil, like in this story. Like, that's part of the reason why I didn't trust the shaman from point one.
Yeah.
I felt like everybody was so full of shit, with the exception of the ghost woman, who didn't quite kind of seem to want anything, right?
Yeah.
The ghost woman was trying to, I mean, she's like the kind of like the avenging angel, right? That's fighting.
Well, she's the city, you know, she's the town spirit. Like there are, you know, those totems. If you go to Korea, you'll see totems much like the one that got chopped down and during that ritual that the shaman was doing, that represent these spirits that are supposed to protect and watch over, you know, various villages. Plus, there's like household deities in Korean folklore as well. So like they have a deity of the bathroom.
Yeah, I saw that. It's a toilet god. I was watching the video where he was like, "Oh yeah, there's like the sink god and the toilet god."
Yeah, General MacArthur's a deity in Korean folklore too.
I think
Catholics have a lot of saints too. So
yeah, well, it's in a similar way, right? Like the Catholic Church went around to people that were pagan or like, you know, like Celtic, like all these different kind of folk religions, and they just kind of took the symbolism and religious like iconography or whatever like that they had around them, and just were like, oh yeah, well we can make those people saints now.
But who's the saint of the toilet?
I think having a toilet god is useful, because like I think everyone's had a moment of prayer that they're like, please make this stop.
In the ATRs, you have the toilet is considered, you can feed your Egun, your ancestors there, because it is a hole going into the ground.
I don't know if my ancestors would appreciate
Hmm.
that.
I didn't know my ancestors were into that human centipede stuff.
No, but
No,
I think it's
it's
interesting
fascinating.
that like the ghost woman tells him in that one scene that I put in the intro, she tells him the old woman went crazy in the beginning because she had a death, like there was like a ritual at the she called that shaman. I mean, you have to assume that shaman, right? Like probably wasn't a different shaman. And then he was doing the ritual and she stopped him.
Yep.
And because she stopped him, that's why she got infected. Like the infection continued and everybody died. And he doesn't seem to hear, like he seems to only hear, oh, this woman might be a witness because he's a cop and he's not a very good cop. And he's like, oh, a witness. So, you know, he doesn't hear the fact that calling the shaman, and the shaman does do like the actual death hex, right? Like if you waited until the end, it probably would exercise the actual spirit. But like knowing full well that people aren't going to let their family members be tortured like that, it's like, how committed are you to exercising the spirit? And if you're not committed enough, that's kind of why you die. And that's why it's kind of a good treatise on belief. Throughout this, there's all these different tests on belief that all these characters have to go through, and they always fail them. But like you don't realize that all these things are a test until you realize at the end that it is the devil, or you know, the demonic force, you know, that is testing the priest in the end. And then, you know, they really like they do it very heavy-handedly, where they're like, oh, why are you feeling so much doubt, dude? You're a priest, like you can't stop me or something. And that's when like you're like, oh shit, like this entire movie is like a series of different tests by a demonic force that's trying to you know, destroy this village and wants to see if anybody is willing to like stand up, which you know, it gets back to all kinds of mythology where it's always somebody you know, there's always like a giant or like a, you know, something that is in front of them that they have to like conquer, and they have to feel, you know, the belief in their heart, like the confidence. Like that's one of the oldest I think types of myths that we have. Yeah.
No, I'm just everybody's like being polite and waiting for the next person to talk. Absolutely, I think that you'll see a lot, especially again in the Bible, you'll see a lot of stories where like you have to believe in the face of some really horrible stuff that's gonna work out.
And
Or
sometimes
that
they're
there's
just,
some meaning
yeah.
to it. There's some underlying reason that it's happening. There's something good that's going to come out of it. And sometimes that's the case. Sometimes it's a genocide. Sometimes it's just awful through and through.
Well, I mean, there's sometimes like in the Bible, at least like the Old Testament, like sometimes God's just fucking with people. Like there's a thing where Abraham was going to kill his son, and God stops at the last minute. It was like, oh, I was just joking, man. You don't have to do that.
That's way more Greek god kind of situation.
Yeah.
Just be like, hey, I wonder what happens.
Yeah.
If I pretend to be a swan.
The other day I watched a portion of the movie God on Trial, and it was a really great soliloquy, you know, by a bunch of people in one of the concentration camps, and they were literally putting God on trial and saying, is he a good God or a bad God? And a rabbi that broke his vow of silence ended up going on this kind of monologue about how horrible God was. And it was fascinating.
That is an interesting place to look for God.
Yeah.
There's no God in these courts. So there, I found like this behind the scenes thing, and then I had to take it and record the actual video from my computer because I wanted to keep the subtitles in there. But this is about like the 180-day filming period for this.
제가 체감하는 그 사회 분위기 이런 것들을 영화를 해보고 싶다. 그게 발단이고요. 그게 시작이에요. 전작들에 대한 그 긴장감과 지금의 긴장감은 다르다. 계속 느리게 전진해 나가면서 스릴을 강화를 시키는 그런 스타일의 영화를 만들고 싶었어요.
역시 나온진이구나라는 생각이 들 정도로
정말 오랜만에 이런 시나리오를 보게 되는 거죠. 今まで誰も見たことないある意味ジャンルとしてもなかったような映画になるのではないかなと.
그 시나리오를 안 할 이유는 없었던 것.
6개월 동안 딸을 살려내려고
미친 듯이 촬영하고 고생했던 기억이 나요. 산을 뛰어가지고 개울을 건너가지고 절벽에서 추위와도 싸우고 고군분투하는 그런 황야를 찍으면서 가장 인상적인 배우였어요. 곽동의 총이라는 0점 어마어마하게 잘 잡힌 총이에요. 조준하면 무조건 맞습니다.
욕심 반, 걱정 반. 내가 이걸 해낼 수 있을까, 할 수 있을까. 실제 그 촬영날 내가 어떻게 어떤 식으로 움직일지 나도 몰랐던 거고 소리하고 나하고 막 완전히 무아지경에 빠져가지고 막 뛰어노는데 내 스스로 내가 하면서도 내가 놀래는 그 순간들이 있어요.
그 15분 동안 선배님의 그 연기를 6대의 카메라로 찍은 거죠. 굿에 대한 그 느낌은 연기 이상이었다라고 저는 그렇게 생각해요. 배우가 연기해서 가능했겠는가 다들 놀랬죠. ある作品に向かってそのキャラクターを立ち上げるっていうスタンスっていうかアプローチの方法論なんですけど、脚本から受けた自分のそのキャラクターのイメージみたいなものを自分のこうそのイメージをどこまで具体化できるかっていう무대 연기와는 다른 그 영화 연기에만 그 정수를 보여주시는 그 카메라에 타겟팅된 어느 곳에 계시고 어떤 역할을 하는지 정확하게 아시면서 정말 베테랑 같은 연기를
제가 어떠한 존재로 영화 속에 있어야 되나? 뭐 이런 생각을 좀 했던 것 같아요. 제가 의상이 워낙 얇아서 안에 아대를 할 수가 없었어요. 산 기슭에서 몸싸움을 했는데 끝나고 나서 보니까 다리 전체가 다 완전히 상처투성이더라고요.
천훈 씨는 뵙는데 그 짧은 대사들이 압도적으로 저에게 느껴졌고 다른 배우를 생각할 여지가 없어요. 가장 파워풀한 여배우가 아닐까 짐작해요.
Yeah, she was fierce in this.
Yeah.
She was fantastic. Holy cow.
And without even having to say that much, I mean, you know, besides that, like, I mean, she gives a very varied performance too, right? Like towards the end when she actually knows what's going on and she's warning him, like, you just believe, like, don't doubt, which is, I mean, it comes back to that over and over again. Like, don't doubt this, like, you know, this moment, just listen to me. This is like another test, and he has to wait just for the 3 roosters. Bro, you just had to wait for the 3 roosters.
Right?
Man,
come on, man.
It would be fine if you waited. But
Story
like,
of my life, man.
Andy, did you do any research into like the 5 colors?
Oh, the 5 colors is the 5 directions. North, south, east, west, and where you're, you know, the middle. Is the what the 5 colors represent, and it's very heavy in Korean art, which
so he has the 5 colors on his arm when he's doing the dance, and I didn't realize that that's why his like robe was so colorful until I watched that video today when he's doing the thing, you know, the it's pretty much ribbon dancing when he's doing that.
No, it's a drag queen story hour.
That just reminded me of when I saw Bobcat Goldthwait the other day do stand up at this church. There was like a trans comedian that opened up for him, and her like joke was like, I could never be like when I was figuring out what I was, I could never be a drag queen because I would never read any books to any kids.
I'm not that nice.
She's like, I just wouldn't do that with my time. But like, yeah. So there's the 5 colors, and I didn't know that there was that much symbolism to that, and I think like that's one of those things that like an American audience wouldn't have it. They just be like, dude, this guy's really colorful when he comes in there with this.
The other thing too, those swords that he was whipping around, those are usually bronze, which is interesting that they're not bronze in this. So
that should have been their first. That should have been their first hint that something was up with this guy.
Yeah, we put that in the goofs and trivia.
No, I mean like I don't know if there's a deeper meaning behind that. I didn't.
If it was meant, if it was intended that way to kind of show that he was a charlatan, maybe.
Yeah, and it's maybe like one of those little clues, like him being a male, and you know, just like.
Well, he isn't a charlatan. That's kind of the thing that I find fascinating.
Yeah,
like he is a shaman. He's just working for his
motivation.
He's like working for the devil.
Yeah, and it could be just that was the choice of the director, or the director symbolized, okay, we need different tools because he's working for evil. You know, it could be.
Yeah,
that'd be cool to know, though.
I don't know what those choices were. I just know that fact in my cramming for this, and I didn't get a chance to figure out if there was any deeper meaning behind it, or if it just No, the bronze just looked weird on camera.
That is funny that you point that out, Forrest, because I grew up in Flushing, Queens, which is a pretty Korean neighborhood, and so we would do like festival fan dances.
Going through the subway and Flushing is so crazy, or like because the subway goes over the actual. Well, all right, there's that story where I was really had to pee, and then we kept hearing Flushing. But
I'm like, don't think about
whenever I go
Flushing.
to my grandma's on the train, I have to go through Flushing, and it instantly turns from like all the signs are in like English or Spanish to like all the signs are in like Mandarin and Korean, and like and it's like you're in like a completely. It feels like you're in almost like a different world for a second, and then you go right to the fucking to like the stadium. That's like the next stop.
Yes, now baseball.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I grew up doing dances in those costumes, so I didn't even think of it was a weird scene at all. I was just like, yeah, I might as well be wearing like the little white thing because that's what people do.
I like that they denote the town spirit by the fact that she's always wearing white, as opposed to not like somebody wearing dark colors, which is how we symbolize it, but the shaman wearing the shamanistic colors, and the devil kind of having like the red eyes that he keeps dreaming about, and like so the color plays such a huge role in this whole like the religious side to it.
I think they were subtle about it too. Like even in her performance was very subtle. Like the white is there, but it didn't feel obvious.
No.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, just I didn't get to dig into all colors, but white is a symbol for purity in Korea, like most places. So
just like us for real.
Well, and in most Asian cultures, funerals is all white, and you've got the ghost festival and.
It's kind of like when you rewatch The Sixth Sense and you're like, oh, damn, the red doorknob, obviously he's a ghost. Yeah. And you're like, oh, shit, she was clearly a ghost.
But yeah, so the other thing that I think is interesting is the Japanese, like the outsiders. Like I mean, I understand why, but it's also, you could read it as like a certain xenophobia.
Oh, very much
in
so.
This case, justified xenophobia, but they actually have the actor that played the Japanese man is like a well-known Japanese actor.
Yeah, he was in Kill Bill, and
like it has to be crazy to. So I found them talking about it at Cannes, and he doesn't really. They never really acknowledge the awkwardness, I guess, of that role. But I think that it's interesting that the role is known as like the stranger too, right? Like because it's not just like they don't harp on the Japanese part of it in that like just the fact that it's an outsider coming into a village where there wouldn't usually be an outsider is like the warning sign. More, I think, even if you didn't know about Japanese like imperialism or like the history of Korean and Japan and like they're like the struggles between them, I guess, like you'd still know that like as an outsider coming into this village, like that is a sign that something's going on.
Hi, I'm Han from Deep Focus, China. And I have one question for the Kunimura Jun. Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, how was it like to work with, I think the title is in French is like The Strangers, and you are the stranger in the film, and you are also maybe the only Japanese. I mean, yes, there could be some others, but the only main Japanese actor to be in the project. How is it working with the Korean crews and director?
まず、初めて韓国映画というものに、出演できたのがナホンジン監督の現場であるということは本当に幸せだなと今もそれは入った時も思ってました。っていうのは今まで割と自分のキャリアの中でいろんな外国の監督といろんなプロダクションで仕事をさせてもらいましたけれども、一番興味を惹かれてたというとやっぱり韓国映画だったんですね。それは役者さんのクオリティがすごく高いということも、あとは映画全体に占めるパッションみたいなものがすごく大きいな。一体それはどうしてこんな映画ができるんだろうって、それが不思議でしょうがなかったので、一度は韓国映画に自分も参加したいと思っていたのが、今回、ナホンジンという監督、才能と一緒にできたってことがすごく僕にとっては幸せでした。で、 ストレンジャーの件ですけれども、もうまさに、この中で一人だけ日本人ということもありますけど、お話の中では日本人というのは全く関係なく、まさにストレンジャーで、あるコミュニティの中に異物が入ってくるという、その異物は、生命体であるのかすらよくわからないような異物ですけれども、それがまさに今回のこの日本人の作った国村という映画の一つテーマを担っている部分でもあると、そういうふうに思ってやってみました。
Well, thank you very much. I first would like to say how fortunate I felt and still feel to be part of this incredible film, and that my first Korean film was the onset of the director Hong-jin, because I have throughout my career worked with non-Japanese foreign directors on many different projects, but I was most intrigued working for, or what I had always wanted to, shall I say, was fascinated with Korean cinema the most. And this is because of the incredibly high quality of the actors they have and that incredible passion they have for cinema. And I always watched Korean films thinking, how can they make such films? And so it was my wish to be able to be on the set of a Korean film, and that set was the set of incredible talent that is Hong-jin is a great blessing. You also brought up the matter of the stranger, and it's true, I am the only Japanese on a set that was very much Korean, but the character itself is not in fact defined as Japanese. He's just something different, a strange entity, an undefined, maybe not even a living thing that suddenly happens upon or comes to this village, and I felt that was Goksun, this film's one of the film's themes, and that's what I had in mind when I was performing.
Nice.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
How did you watch the film? Because I watched it on Amazon Prime, and in my translation, not only did they just call that person, they didn't call him the Japanese, they called him the Jap.
Yeah, which
and
is
so, okay,
Yeah.
it was really derogatory.
yeah.
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 Well, I remember watching Squid
It's like,
Games,
they're like,
and
it's an
they were
American
talking
audience, throw a
about.
slur in there.
Well, I mean, it's back when Squid Games aired, people were talking about how the subtitles weren't correct. So I'm wondering if that was just implied by the person doing the subs.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
could be, because I know a little bit of like translation, and one of these days I'm going to get an actual like anime voice dubber guy, actor who does voiceover in a lot of anime come on the show. But I do know that they like an American production studio actually does a draft of the script. And I know with dubbing, they even rewrite it some more so it's closer matches the lips, which is ridiculous because I don't care if the dialogue matches the lips. I want to get the essence of what they're saying more than, being comforted by the lips and what's being said matches up.
I like how the IMDb plot just says a Japanese man has recently arrived at a little village, and then the Wikipedia one is like after a mysterious Japanese man and his King Corso dog arrive in Gakshun. Like, it's in both cases, the first thing that you see is like there's a Japanese man. So maybe it's just kind of maybe they downplayed it for him.
Or maybe he thought he was downplaying it. Maybe that's what they told him.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think it really, like, you don't have to know about the history of Korea and Japan to understand that, like, he's an outsider and this is a village that's very secluded. And just, I mean, there's a long history of like somebody, like any kind of outsider, right? And like a xenophobic kind of attitude towards whatever happens. Like if something different happens.
Even if it was a Korean who was just an outsider.
Yeah.
Like City Boy, that'd be his name.
Being out in the woods, standing in the water, in your underwear. That looked like a horrible scene to have to film. As an actor, I immediately went, oh, man.
So many scratches and scrapes. Ow.
Now, apparently that traditional underwear that he's wearing is Japanese and not Korean, according to one of the things I was watching.
Which is another reason to feel like that character is Japanese, right?
But then remember the shaman. The
They
shaman
say,
was wearing the
he's
same.
Japanese
He
so many
speaks
times.
Japanese. He speaks Japanese as
Yeah.
well. So yeah. And they need Sami to translate.
The shaman's wearing the same diaper as it was called in the movie.
Yeah.
I missed that. Oh man. Oh,
that's a see again. You go back and you watch it, and you're like, wow, how did
is
I
it
not
like magic
know?
Mormon underwear? I mean,
But yeah, no, because remember he's back there after I forget exactly what happened, but the shaman was shaking out of his clothes.
He asks him for the money, and he won't quite yet leave. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, you see him standing there for just a moment, and one of those little hangy do diapers that they call.
What do you guys think about the one of the most striking scenes to me is when they go to the church and they're asking for help, and the priest at the church, right, like this, like the village priest or whatever, maybe like the area priest, he's talking to the nephew, and then he's like yeah, the church can't help you now, and it's like
no, sorry.
the one time you need, because like the one time you need the church to help you with something, it's like, yeah, you're this is a spiritual matter and you're on your own.
It's like, I'm sorry, did you say the actual devil? Yeah, we'll have to get back to you on that.
That's
well,
not
and it's
our
the same with the
bailiwick.
guy that's like, the young nephew, like that's the priest, is like, I know that you're the devil, and he's like, yeah, what are you gonna do about it? And he's like, stand there scared, I guess. Like,
That absolutely became that scene in Watchmen with Rorschach, where he was like, "You're stuck in here with me."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The other thing too, I was just going to mention that I'm sorry, I'm distracted by Watchmen. Where was I going with this? I was going to bring up another Korean film to kind of like parallel it, and it was gone now. It's gone. I just have Watchmen in my head. It's just nothing but
well, I was
face.
going to say that the young priest, the deacon, because he's not quite yet fully a priest, and then we see his boss when we go to complain at the church scene. That was the point when I really felt like, oh, this is giving me Exorcist vibes. Like, we have a young priest, we have an old priest. I'm here for this.
Yeah, it's definitely inspired by Exorcist, and also another movie that I don't know if they were really making reference to it, but I feel like there's the scene where he makes the one guy that's like the guy that's got struck by lightning. He brings him back to life as like a zombie kind of creature or whatever, and he attacks them. And I like, if it's not a reference to like Shaun of the Dead, when they start hitting him with the stick and they're all in the circle hitting him with the stick over and over again, like that had such big Edgar Wright vibes to it.
I want to give Andy the chance to say what he was going to say before I respond to what you're going to say.
There's a great movie called The Thirst, which is a vampire film. And it's about a priest who gets turned into a vampire. Very much worth checking out. But the church is absolutely useless in this as well. So I just kind of wonder if there's a toothlessness to the Korean church. That they feel in society, because I mean, that's just two representations that have kind of done the same thing.
I mean, even if it's not toothless, right? Like, if you're looking at the clash between, like shamanistic folk religion and like, Christianity, in both cases, they don't really give you the tools necessarily to actually conquer like a demonic spiritual force that, so it's kind of interesting that like in both cases, as like an organized religion, quote unquote, right? Like, you can, like, by the end of the movie, like you feel like both shamanistic practices with like the death hex and stuff is like a real thing, and there are ghosts and there are spirits, and there also apparently is, I mean, if not like at least there's a devil. I don't know if there's God. So like you realize in the end, all of these kind of organized or traditional religions aren't actually equipped to deal with the actual spiritual warfare that's happening in the world, right? Like like if you want to take that reading, so it's like both of these institutions completely fail when it comes to actually like taking on, or I guess the shaman didn't just fail, the shaman just was like, oh,
had ulterior motives. It's interesting that you point that out, because I feel like society on a whole kind of wants to believe in God, but doesn't want to believe in ghosts or the demons or the devil. So it's if
there are a lot of people that do want to believe in the devil.
It's a whole group of people. But like, if there's white, there's black. So why are so many people willing to be like, yeah, there's probably a God, but are like, oh, believing in exorcisms is stupid. You know?
I think it's so far beyond some people's comprehension.
Mhm.
You know, as it's you have this rigid idea of what a man is and what a woman is and what life is.
Mhm.
And anything that kind of throws that into disarray makes, you know, people reevaluate and shifts their perspective. And it can be really scary, especially if proof lands in your lap. Your brain will do what it can to try to explain it, to try to explain it in a way.
I feel like that's what our main character does a lot, tries to take what he's
Oh, yeah.
receiving and explain it through this one lens of what he wants it to be. The Japanese guy has done it, and misses out on a lot of what is auxiliary to that. And to go back to what Forrest is saying, it makes sense that institutions like the Catholic Church would not want to have something that kind of challenges anything. It makes it difficult to maintain order if we're like, yeah, so maybe ghosts exist too.
Yeah. And I could see why the Catholic Church would say, I don't think we want to step here, because if we lose, then, you know, maybe we lose followers, maybe it's a face thing, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I was going to say earlier, we were talking about lightning and getting struck by lightning. I think it's the Park Chun-bae character that gets struck by lightning.
Which is kind of a funny scene, but it's also horrific and beautifully foreshadowing everything too.
Yeah,
like,
well,
it's such a great scene.
There's a couple of scenes that border on funny, like Forrest was saying earlier, the scene where they go to try and just beat the guy with sticks. It is a little Shaun of the Dead, and maybe it's because they have to use that stunt prop behind the guy so that you can actually hit him with force. But it does have a comical fashion about it, which, you know, it doesn't undercut entirely the scene. It still sort of works for me. But I was going to say, I met someone who was once struck by lightning. It turns out a lot of people who are struck by lightning survive, like 90% of people. I mean, they're messed up, but most people do. It was a manager that I worked for at a store. He was on the phone talking to a girlfriend, and he says if she had not been so incredibly loud and brass, he would have been holding the phone close to his face. But he had been holding it out like this because she's so loud. He's always just like, and lightning struck through the telephone and shot him across the room.
Wow.
He lived. And he was probably the kookiest human being I'd ever met in my life. But, you know, brushes like that with death will change you. Have you ever met anyone who almost died? I mean, I'm assuming, Jada, you have.
I have definitely. I've talked to you know, spirits. I've met people who have had near death experiences, and they can be remarkably transformative, mentally, emotionally, physically. I mean, if you think of people with traumatic brain injuries that, you know, maybe they die on the table and they come back and then there's an entirely different person in there, which is also a fascinating thing. You know, biology has so much of a changing factor in who we think we are, you know?
Oh, yeah. And that could almost make a person feel like, well, they've been possessed with a different person's soul. It's interesting where science and myth kind of overlap a little bit.
Yeah, it makes me wish that science and animistic beliefs would come together more to try to find an actual reason for what's happening, instead of it being, no, it can't be metaphysical, and no, it can't be medical. And, you know, never the twain shall meet. It feels like a missed opportunity for humanity. And I hope we're on the edge of kind of fixing that.
Oh, absolutely. Especially because the very famous quote that, you know, magic is just not yet discovered science. And a lot of times when we discover things, like if you think about how Wi-Fi works, you're like, that's kind of like magic, right?
Oh yeah. I can send a missive to a friend across the room and they can read it on a device. And that's just, we couldn't have done that, you know, back when I was a kid, back when there was the Atari 2600 and Pong, that was it.
And you see this a lot in herbalism as well, where like, well, this was the herb that they used to treat this, and it turns out it actually does scientifically at a level treat what it was being used for.
Oh yeah.
But science always acts like, and they just got lucky. And you're like,
as opposed to years and years of and generations of, you know, information passed down. I believe that the foxglove is still used to make digitalis. You know, you still have herbs that are being used to to create medical remedies. So it's, in my opinion, yeah, you know, I mean, science is good for some things, herbalism is good for some things, and if we could all figure out what worked best and kind of go with that, that would be fantastic. But we get locked into these narratives that everything in science can only be science, and that seems like a kind of a short-sighted thing.
Absolutely. And that's what happens to the protagonist in this movie. He gets just kind of shunted in this one belief structure. It can't really go anywhere from there. And you know, I guess that's the moral. That's why he gets screwed in the end, and that's why it's okay? Question mark. I mean, did you think he was? Did either of you think he was going to get saved at the end?
Ooh, the ending was unexpected for me. It was very shocking, and very holy. You know, it was a lot going on in my head at the same time, because I felt that they very effectively portrayed the horror of him finding the scene he did at the end, and where his mind just snaps and he goes away, you know, and then the shaman comes in and takes his little pictures of the lives that he's destroyed.
Detail.
Oh
like,
yeah,
pictures throughout it, right? Like, and then it, like, I think a lot of like serial killers and stuff, like that's how they find them. Like, there's a lot of weird people that like
tokens
pictures of their
or trophies. Yeah.
Or the idea that a picture captures your soul and they're taking you right at that moment. They're devouring your soul.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to, I'm like, I see, and now my head's going, does he take the picture to the demon and the demon then feed on the soul that's in the picture? So that's an interesting idea.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Or is the soul like kind of contained within the picture, kind of, and having this like display thing of pictures is like just kind of, you know, keeping the souls in his like,
little wall of hell that he can kind of like poke people. Just yikes.
Forrest, I was asking if you thought that the main character was going to get any kind of salvation at the end, or if you thought pretty much this was going to end badly for them.
I mean, I was pretty sold. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I was pretty sold by the time the girl's like explaining to him, like, look, just wait for the 3 roosters. And I was like, I'm pretty sold on, I trust her. I trust her more than I trust, you know, the shaman, and I trust her more than, because it's like, by the end of the movie, it's like, you know, you could pause it and you're like, all right, who do I trust in this situation? And it's like, I trust, like, she hasn't done it. Like, I haven't seen her do anything. I saw the pictures on the guy's wall of all the fucking, you know, like, so it's like, so I was like, yeah, I don't, if he runs right now, like, it's going to be bad when he gets there. I don't know if I was necessarily expecting like that much carnage, but
I mean, as a dad, I'd probably freak out if some person had like a knickknack of my child's in their possession.
Yeah.
You know,
like that's creepy as hell.
Yeah. It's impossible to trust anybody in this.
Yeah.
thing. It doesn't seem like the shaman's the one. I don't know. He's just like, give me $10,000 and I can do this death hex. And like, he's driving.
He seems like he's like the probably the only trustworthy person in the film. You know, up to that point, because like the first time you're watching that, you don't know he's you know, which side he's on.
You feel at best he's opportunistic and he's not really on either side.
Yeah, he's just doing it for the money, you know.
But then he threw those coins in rice and saw something in there and you know, started trying to help the guy. Don't know what that was about.
Oh my god, that's definitely a movie I'd watch.
But yeah, like I don't know. So that moment though is like crazy. Like, it really is like Spider-Man pointing at each other. Like, is Spider-Man the plural of Spider-Man's pointing at each other? But like, everybody, it's a bunch of jokes.
I like the amount of emotion that the men showed in this movie. There was so much grief, and there was so much, like, these guys were ready to kill for him and his little girl, and the grief showing on them when, the Japanese guy got away, and then the grief on the Japanese guy's face is he's just trying to move, and you can see how much pain he's in. And it's just, oof.
Well, there's a sense of community from the beginning of the film,
Yeah.
where he's like, oh, that's like the ginseng salesman or whatever, the farmer, and like they all know that that's the ginseng farmer and his wife, and they know the wife, and it's like it's they're in a rural town where everybody, and obviously as a police officer you probably get to know everybody more, even though everyone's like, yo, fuck off, cop, like
Right.
But I really think it added to the ending, like, because he was so emotive and screaming in those other scenes, when he went dead, it was way more meaningful to see him just like
catatonic, which I think also it's almost terrifying when they go to the Japanese guy's house and he has the pictures and the friend sees it, the other two, his nephew and the main police officer, they don't see it. So, and he isn't really able to tell them until they're in the car, like, oh, the evidence is there, which like, dude, you're like, at least just say evidence, like, but so he sees all of the pictures of the bodies and everything. And that moment of like being catatonic sets you up for the end when he's also like it's like, how much can you really take? And it's another one of those tests. I feel like how much can you take and keep on going? And I like the emotive part of it doesn't really help him. Like he goes to the guy's house and just starts fucking everything up, and obviously then kills the dog. But like that outburst of anger, right? Like that doesn't scare a spirit away. Even killing the dog doesn't scare the spirit away, right? Like you have to fight spirituality with spirituality, which then makes sense that you call in like the shaman to to try to exercise the spirit, but he doesn't have the ability to sit through that either, which, because it's like torturing his daughter, which makes sense, but like it's a solution that requires patience. And so then you think back to when the ghost woman at the beginning is like, the woman stopped the death hex, and that's why everybody died, and she tells him that, but he doesn't register anything in that moment. But like, I'm a cop and that could be a witness. Like that's the naked girl from yesterday.
Yeah, it almost feels like the character is going through stages of death. Like he's angry, and then he's trying to bargain with the shaman, and and at the end we see him come to acceptance. So maybe it was more of an inevitable ride that I thought it was going to be.
Well, and I think another conversation in this movie that has some sub into it is like when they're asking like, why does the ghost do this, right? And it's like, well, he's just fishing. Like there's no reason that he latched on to the daughter. It's just he's fishing and he found, like, he got the daughter. He didn't expect that he was going to get the daughter. He didn't expect he was going to get. He's just fishing and he caught a fish. Like, and for that to like, so. When he's like at the end of it, he's just lying there, and you realize like there's nothing moral or amoral or immoral about him, like necessarily, right? Like, I mean, he reacted in a very human way, but like for this whole thing, like there's no reason for this. It's not like he did. I mean, he stopped the ritual, which is the thing that he should have known not to do, but like there is no reason for the initial outbreak. Like it just, it's just a village. Like
the spirit, the village spirit said that he sinned and he blamed the wrong person.
Yeah,
and that actually kind of makes sense, because if the demon wasn't necessarily the one behind it, if the shaman was part of that, and he blamed, I don't know, maybe.
Well, I think she was saying like, you blamed the wrong person, in the same way that the old woman in the beginning that she's talking about, she's like, once the outbreak started, she stopped the death hex, and she was blaming other people in the family rather than blaming the truth, which was the spirit. And if she had just sat through the ritual and let the ritual take its course, everything would have stopped. So, but it's the initial outbreak of it, though, is just whoever, right? Like it doesn't. It's not
food
like
is food.
Yeah. It's not like you did something and then it's not like you did something and then it called a spirit to you and you've sinned in that way. Now, once the spirit gets there, the choices you make definitely are the things that decide whether you're going to be the person whose entire family dies or not. But like the initial outbreak of it has nothing to do with like sin or like any choices, I guess.
Which
we talked about.
Sorry, go ahead.
have we talked about the little girl? I mean, her acting was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Holy crap. She stole the show. She really did. And the scenes with her and her father where he's bribing her to not talk about what she's seen.
Or another part of it is like when he's looking at her leg and he like moves up her leg and then she has like the boils on her leg and she wakes up in that moment and she's like, "Oh, you're touching my leg? What are you, fucking molesting me or something? Get out of here!" And like is screaming at him, and it's like those moments of just pure anger and like adult rage are crazy coming out of like the mouth of this like little girl.
Yeah, holy cow.
I'm glad that happened in that scene though, because as soon as that he started to be like looking for more boils, I'm like, hey, there's a point at which she should either wake up or you gotta leave. So
you found the evidence you're looking for. Just stop.
Yeah. I was gonna say about the like lack of meaning for the initial outbreak. It's like that's what's even more frightening. Like, because we look to God for meaning, and to see the gods choose randomness is like, I don't care for that.
Well, I mean, that's a fairly Christian sentiment. Whereas like heathens, the gods were just capricious as fuck.
Exactly.
So I mean, it's you expected it. You would ask for help, but maybe you'd get it, maybe you wouldn't.
Yeah. Oh man.
The whole movie like kind of feels like something out of like a different era. Like each, like once you realize it's just like a series of tests, and in each thing it's like, will the test work or will it not? I mean, we kind of talked about this kind of thing with like Beau is Afraid when we were talking about like the hero's journey and how he fails every step of the hero's journey in it. So it's kind of like an inverted mythology. This movie feels the same way, like it's inverted mythology, like in a situation where probably like the like a hero that knows what's going on, or even if he doesn't, like a hero that's kind of feeling his way through everything would eventually realize what's going on in some way and then make the right choices. And there's just no like he doesn't have the patience, and he doesn't have the foresight to let things take their course in any point in this movie. It's the impulsiveness, I think, of which makes sense if your daughter's, like dying in front of you, but like the fact that he can't just sit still and let each solution take its course and not react instantaneously and emotionally, by wailing, I guess you can the fact that he can't control his emotions and just sit through it, and he can't treat that as like a rational exercise, I guess, like is the reason that like things keep getting worse for 2.5 hours.
And
he's completely reactive throughout the entire movie. There's no real proactive, there's no real planning. It's just especially once his daughter gets involved, he's gone. It's all reacting.
I was gonna say he feels like a child a lot, which is similar to Beau is Afraid, where we see him infantilized by his mother, and I wouldn't say the mother in this infantilizes the child too much, but like he's embarrassed that his daughter sees them having sex. Like there's a lot of things where he just doesn't feel like a full adult, let alone someone's dad.
Yeah. You wonder how he got the badge. I mean, how did he become a cop? But apparently all of them are kind of bumbling. So fair enough,
Well, it's like it's a rural village where you have to imagine stuff doesn't really.
Everybody's Barney Fife.
Yeah.
Stuff doesn't happen too often, like people don't like, because the reaction to it in general, like the cop or the police chief is in a completely different city. You know what I mean? When the outbreak happens, like just doing something else, and he's in charge, and they kind of just cordon it off, and they don't really know what to do. And then he gets, the woman charges him, and he doesn't really know how to get her even off him. And they has to have like 3 cops to get a woman off, like an old woman off of him, which she has like rage virus, so she's probably stronger than your average old woman. But like still, like there's so much like the scrambling to react to it, right? Like it is happening in all quarters of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And again, people ignore the sheer science of like, why are the crazy victims trying to bite people?
Yeah.
It's the mushrooms.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's you've got the host that has the parasite that needs to infect others with the parasite. And it could just be as simple as that your transmission vector is biting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the police don't even think about it. They're just like, you couldn't get that old lady off yourself? Like, she was trying to bite me.
I know, right? It's like, how many people did it take to pull that old lady off? Shut up.
Shut up. Who tried to bite you today, and how well did you handle it?
Exactly.
And then that other dude like bit that dude's cheek right off.
Right? Oh my God. Oh.
That was
yeah. There were definitely a few scenes that were very visceral with the special effects, which I thought were done well. Because sometimes, it just doesn't read very well. Even the scene where he's like just spewing out of his face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, none of it seemed really egregious.
Mm-hmm. No, it felt I instead of feeling nauseated, I had this feeling of like, oh, he can't breathe. Like there's just like, drowning and fear. It was a very effective way to make me question if the woman was truly evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much like bodily fluids in this movie. Like he just throws up.
But just someone screaming over me, trying to bite me, drooling. Drooling is the cutoff point. Like you could be trying to bite me, but drooling, especially if it falls in my mouth. No, we're done. We're done. I want to do over.
What'd you guys think of the scene where the shaman is stopped by the town ghost woman, and he just starts vomiting blood and like whatever else all over the
we were just saying it was effective in making me feel really worried for the shaman, and not like, because a lot of times when vomit comes out that quickly and it's like from the sleeve and it feels like a tube, you just wind up laughing. But in that moment, I was truly like, I think this lady is evil.
It's right up there with that scene of possession.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I feel like my brain's melted a lot.
Yeah, play the GIF.
watching this and possession and this movie in the same like month and a half space. Like they're both like they have even like a similar vomiting scene.
Oh man,
don't care for that.
Which we do have as a GIF.
Yeah, we do.
but no, it's great that the effects look so good too. Which kind of goes back to what the guy was saying about how good the how great Korean films are, which there are a lot of great ones.
Oh yeah,
I've watched some mediocre ones, and those are still pretty good.
Oh,
I guess it's like that old joke I heard in college. Why is sex like pizza? When it's bad, it's good, and when it's great, when it's good, it's great, and when it's bad, it's still pretty good. Which is
Korean cinema is like pizza, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
No pineapple. Letterboxd one-liners.
Let's do it. So, Letterboxd, for people who don't know, is a service online where people can go and review films, and anybody can review them. You don't have to be a Siskel or an Ebert. It's kind of as we like to say, an even playing field for people. And we pull off the one-line kind of funny ones about the film to sort of discuss at the end, and that's what we're going to do right now. How can you trust a man who wears a Nike jacket with an Adidas track pants? And I have to say, like,
a fair question.
Align with one brand. You should have known right there from the beginning. All those subtle things, like the not bronze knife, this as well.
Yes.
I mean, but like 2 stars though.
Come on, dude.
There were so many.
If fashion is the only reason you're watching this movie, surely there are other things to watch.
There were also so many reviews for this movie that were very long, in-depth. People really wanted to talk about how this movie affected them. So I did actually have trouble finding one-liners.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God, right?
Can there be an Oscar for outstanding screaming performance, and can a child be eligible for nomination?
Yeah, she was amazing.
She was really amazing. That had to have been hard to direct. I feel like it's hard to direct kids in genuine kind of emotion like that.
I find myself wondering if she needed counseling after this movie.
Yes, can a movie traumatize a child like that?
Holy crap, right? I mean, she just, holy crap.
She probably was not allowed to see it when it came out.
Yeah, fair enough.
what the fuck, bruh? I was really rooting for that little old man right until the last act.
I wonder. Well, no, that's a white person, I guess. It'd be funny if it was like a Japanese person that was like, "Come on, man, I was rooting for you. We could have made some inroads with the South Korean community."
But yeah, definitely once they started chasing him through the woods, I was like, I don't know, I kind of am rooting for this guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably the most pathetic and useless protagonist in cinema, and I mean that as a compliment. Definitely was an effective sad sack. The Exorcist Halloween special, Pazuzu goes to Korea.
I would watch. Not gonna lie.
Not gonna lie, would watch too. Never before have I wanted to immediately rewatch a movie that's 2.5 fucking hours long.
Oh yeah.
We were just talking about that. Like, you definitely need to rewatch it for all of the little bits, but it is a long movie.
Yeah, it is.
In conclusion,
Ooh.
trust a woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Believe women.
Me and the boys fighting a demon with a broom handles and rakes.
Shaun of the Dead style, I'm telling you.
Yeah, it was totally Shaun of the Dead style.
Do you guys know if Korean cops get guns?
They didn't have them in this movie or Memories of Murder. Like they
have to only for special occasions do they get guns.
Because I definitely found
Happy
myself
birthday, here's a gun, bro.
Here's a gun. Wondering, like, why did they choose these weapons? It's a demon.
Yeah, yeah.
Old me would have made some lame but still hilarious joke here. I am not the same person I was before I started this movie.
Profound.
I feel that.
Moving.
Because you know you've been taken over by the demon.
Exactly. Should have used anti-itch cortisone for the rash, bro. Shaking my head, shitty parenting.
Instead of like, you know, the herbal not get struck by lightning or not die from getting struck by lightning concoction.
I did find myself thinking, like, they went to the dermatologist, they're in the hospital, nobody's talking about ointments of any kind. Nobody's really talking about the rash.
Yeah.
The Rash would have been a good name for this movie, by the way, if it wasn't The Wailing.
The Wailing. I definitely think there was a fair amount of screaming, so I believe it was well named.
And the name of the village translates into the whale.
Like the animal?
I'm assuming like the scream, but
okay.
I don't speak Korean, so I don't know. That's just what I heard online, and we'll go with it.
Fair enough.
Correct us in the chat.
The Korean name for this movie is Gokshun, which is like the town that the movie takes place.
It's missing the E in the town, but interesting. All right. Final thoughts?
Andy has to do the plug.
Oh, I always skip plugs.
You don't want to do the plug. But if you're watching us right now on YouTube, please do those YouTube things like comment, subscribe, hit that bell. And of course, the big ask is watch the video to the end. You get to hear a great Conan Neutron song, and that allows us to get found by other movie fans. It's the weird way the algorithm works. So we must serve the algorithm. If you're over on Twitch, do the Twitch things. Throw us a sub. If you happen to have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe to this channel for free. Does not cost you anything, but greatly helps us out. So if you can, please do that. Find us on social media. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky. So if you choose to be on any of those sites, you can find us wherever you choose to get your social media. We do have a Patreon, so please go over there. With Patreon, we get access to things like our past after parties, which we've had some fun ones. I brought this up in chat. Nobody answered. Are we? Did we want to do an after party tonight?
Don't know. Forrest isn't here right now.
Yeah, who knows? We'll figure that out.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll do it live. But yeah, no, we if you think this show is a little off the rails at times, that's where we totally get off the rails. But sometimes we have great conversations. Continue more about the movie. So if you want to see more content, or you want to see us go with our Oscar predictions with our guests, which is what we did last year, which is a lot of fun.
That is fun.
Go subscribe, check those out. I think
probably do an after party next week. I'm like not feeling that good today, so
okay.
No
Yeah,
worries.
definitely should do one next week because we didn't do one last week either. So yeah.
So it's kind of
It'll-
like the bumpers get taken off the conversation and everything's allowed,
Hmm.
which is a great world for you, Andy, because I feel like you often get like accused of going off topic, but I guess there is no topic, so go free.
Not for the after party. I can just go crazy. Conan's on tour, but if you want a little bit more Conan in your life, check out his podcast, Platonic Reversal. I'm going to recommend to you the episode 270 with a special guest, Chris Murphy of Sloan, who has also been on this program twice. So go ahead and check that out. I'm a big Sloan fan and enjoy that. But if you want to get some music, go to neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. You can get his new album that he's on tour with right now, Adult Prom. He's in Reno tonight. So if you're out the West Coast and you're near Reno, whenever we're done here, hop in your car, run over to Reno and go see Conan. You win. Tony lost $2 in the casinos. Get Tony his $2 back. So there you go. Head out there and but then they're going to Eugene, Portland, Bellingham, and Seattle after that. So if you're in any of those cities, you're on notice. Go see Conan. Kristina couldn't join us either tonight, but she does have a Patreon. So go to patreon.com/cosmopolitics to help her out.
Tomorrow's her birthday, right?
Yeah, I know it's coming up soon. I don't remember which day it is.
Yeah. Go give her the birthday treat.
Yeah.
Buy her a cup of coffee.
Yeah. She does have a coffee. I don't know if she's still using her coffee, but she did have a coffee where you could give her coffee, but you could still go check out her Patreon. KT.
Oh, yes. So you can always watch Girl in the Basement. If you like a horror movie, if you watch this movie and you're like 2.5 hours, that was long. I wish I could watch a horror movie that was 32 minutes long. You can go to YouTube and you can watch Girl in the Basement, which is the story of a woman who is captured by a serial killer. And on the day that he would have killed her, he accidentally dies on top of the exit. This is a story of how she deals with trying to get out. It's also an allegory for anorexia. So enjoy that terror. It's body horror too. So if you don't like graphic stuff, don't watch it. If you'd like something a little more easy, you can always find me in the Starwell Foundation, which is a story about a world where superheroes exist. And there is a Make-A-Wish Foundation that normally gets kids to be able to talk to superheroes. Kids have now started to request to speak to supervillains. And our main character is in charge of making that happen. I play one of the telekinesis. Is that the one where you move stuff or where you can read people's minds?
Telekinetic.
Telekinetic.
Oh, I read
moving stuff.
No, I read people's minds. Sorry. The other
Telepathic.
one.
That's telepathic. Yeah.
I'm a telepathic Russian supervillain, and I'm also the host of the podcast Inside the Podcast, which explores how all of the murders and stuff inside the super world happen. It's really fun. It's by Opinions May Vary, and you can get it wherever podcasts are out.
Fun. And of course, Jhada, you're here, which is exciting. You we met because you wrote some books and you were at conventions I was at.
I did. I did.
Yeah. Which was the Vengeance Cycle series, which is the only thing I could find online.
Yeah, those are the I wrote It Never Ends and Devil's Gambit, and someday I'll get started on book 3 in between all the other weird stuff I do throughout the course of my life.
Yeah, which is including Repairing the Chalice, Restorative Intimate Healing.
Yes, I'm an intimacy coach, so I work with single people or couples on difficult conversations around intimacy, and I suck at plugs.
Yeah, I imagine you're not like wearing a striped shirt, going like yellow card, offsides.
No. Right now I'm just wearing my my white Volt T-shirt. So.
Well, you seem to wear a lot of very fascinating hats.
I do, it's a juggling act, but I make it work. So
nice. Do you have a website where we could find your info?
I do. Repairingthechalice.com is my business.
I'll add that to the show notes.
Oh, thank you. And then JhadaAddams.com is just me, my blog.
Yeah, I found your blog and added that to the show notes, but I don't think it's the I don't know if it's the right. It was like the WordPress one.
No, that's my personal blog, and then Repairing the Chalice is the intimacy coaching.
And Ninja Cooter is you on Twitter?
Ninja Cooter's me everywhere.
Nice. It's a great name. I'm impressed you got the handle. You know, you didn't have to put a number on it or anything.
I've had it for a long time.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think that's it. I'm like, wait, do I have any plugs? No, I don't think I do.
Plugs?
I don't think I have any plugs.
All right, Jhada, do you have some final thoughts for this movie?
Oh gosh, you're gonna want to watch it a couple times. The cinematography is beautiful. It just pretty much everything about this movie is beautiful. The location it's shot in, just go see it. You're gonna get some phenomenal actors at the top of their craft, quite frankly.
Yeah, for sure. Andy, final thoughts?
Yeah, just to build on that, the script is just phenomenal, and it gives you just enough to sit there and want to argue about the ending of it, and lots of people do. So, after you watch this movie, you can go to the bar and pick a fight with somebody over the ending of it. I mean,
gotta be like a Korean bar. I don't know how many. Well, I think a lot of American people probably watched it, but I don't know if you're gonna find some guy at the bar and you're like, who here has seen The Wailing?
Oh, I've just seen The Whale.
Go to a bar in Flushing, Queens. That's what you got to do.
There you go.
And make sure you pee before you get on the subway.
Oh yeah.
Because we went to the city and we had to go from like Manhattan to Queens on the subway, and it was like taking forever. And I really had to pee the entire time. There was nowhere to pee, and then the subway kept going Flushing, and I was like, well, you don't have to remind me of that.
Like, that's unnecessarily cruel.
Yeah, well, what was really cruel is whenever I said, just don't think about Flushing, and he's just glaring at me.
Don't think about Flushing, and then the subway would go, next stop, Flushing, and it's like, well, now I can't help myself. I need a shaman to give me like a don't have to pee anymore. Hex.
There you go. It's a pee exorcism.
You're a diaper. They cover this in the movie, dude.
Yeah, there you go. You just have to have a diaper.
Would that be a pexorcism? Because pecker. But KT, got some final thoughts?
I basically agree with you guys. It is an incredibly atmospheric movie. It's definitely something that you're going to have to spend some time with and watch. A lot of times people say they don't want to watch a movie with subtitles because you can't do anything else. Well, this isn't a kind of movie where you could have done anything else anyway, because you really have to be watching. Mm-hmm. I will warn you that it is long. So if you're not in it to watch a 2.5-hour movie, you really have to pay attention to make sure you're in the right mindset, or you might miss out in enjoying something that could be really good.
If you don't look around once in a while, you just might miss it. I think
try to put yourself in the mindset of, I'm watching a Bollywood production that's 3 or 4 hours long, and then you'll be set.
Exactly.
I feel like this movie, much in the way that if you call a shaman in, the shaman doesn't have to be helpful, right? Like the shaman could be working with the bad spirits, and this movie is a vibe movie. But you have to remember that not all vibes are happy, positive vibes. Some vibes are horrifying.